Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Shivaya Krishna Swami, Om Shivaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Bhagavad Gita is chapter 2, text 14. Matra Sparshastu Kundeya, Shitoshna Sukadukadaha, Agama Mayo Nidya Samsadiksha. Translation: O son of Kundi, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their appearance, their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Text 15. Yamhina yata yankete, purusham purushashvaha, samadhuka sukham viranam, somrittatvaya kalpate. Translation: O best known of men, or Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Text 16. Nasado vidite bhavu, na bhavu vidite sadaha, vaya vidrishtuntas, danyas tattadarshi. Translation: Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the existent there is no cessation. This seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. Text 17. Avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarva vidandadam vinasam havyayasya nakasit kartamarhati. Translation: Know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the perishable soul. Text 18. Translation: Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, fight for the sins of Bharata. Text 19. Yayana vedi hantaram yastainam nanyate hatam ugoto na vichanito naya hanti na hanyate. Translation: He who thinks that the living entity is the slayer, or that he is slain, does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not, nor is slain. Text 20. Najayate viyate vakadashin nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuya ajoditya shashvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Translation: for the soul there is neither birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Text 21. Vedadinat Vedadinasunam nityam ye etya enam vajamadhyam tatam sa purusha partha kangatayati hantikam. Translation: O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Text 22. Samsidena niyata vihaya dhamani grinani rovarani tata sharirani vihaya jirani adani samyati ramani devi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Text 23. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dhavati bhavaga nachainam vidhantyantyako na shoshayati maruta. Shoshayati maruta. Translation: the soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Text 24. Ateyo yam adhayo yam ateyo shosharevacha nitya sarvagata snano bhachalo yam sanatana. The individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, all-pervading, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. 625. Avyakto yam shintyo yam vikhayo yam ushyate tasmanevam viditvainam nanusho chikumarvasi. Translation. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Matcha Sparshastha Kunteya, Shitoshna Sukadhukada, Agama Maimonitas Tantatikshai Svabhavata. Translation: the son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance and happiness and distress, and their appearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception or sign of artha, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Purport: in the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunctions, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magha, January, February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the month of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight in this is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. Illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kunteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharata signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. One has to follow, Prabhupada says in the purport, one has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion, only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. So prescribed rules and regulations, religious principles. We follow the four regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. And we chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So it is said, Mahayeno Gata, Mahayeno Gata, that the Shastra, the Shastra, basically, we're following the footsteps of the Mahajans, the Acharyas. So really, Shastra is in the heart of the pure devotee. Just like Bhagavatam, the Shastras, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, as well as other Vedic literatures, they're all spoken by the Mahajans. The pure devotees of the Lord are speaking the Shastra. So Shastra is spoken by the pure devotees. So Shastra is coming from the devotees of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada has given us these rules and regulations to follow, which are, although in some places it's said that one should chant 64 rounds, just like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One lack of names, one lack of names, 100,000 names, which is roughly, it's not exactly 64 rounds, but roughly. And so, in one area, that's the. But here we have Srila Prabhupada recommending that we chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And although they seem, well, it seems like there's a conflict there, there's no conflict, because the essence is given. The essence is given. Whether one is chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna or one is chanting 64 rounds or 32 rounds or however much you can chant, 16 rounds is the prescription given by Srila Prabhupada, so it's the prescription given to the whole world now in this age of Kali Yuga. So everyone should at least strive to chant 16 rounds. Everyone. And doing so, following the four regulated principles, he can actually attain this knowledge and he can rise up to the platform of knowledge perfectly. Just as somebody who because what Srila Prabhupada is speaking is Shastra. So I was hearing one devotee speaking, and he was talking about how to reconcile between conflicts in Shastra. Because, I mean, there's not really any conflicts, but sometimes you hear different instructions that might seem conflicting. Should I, like I said, should I chant 16 rounds or should I chant 64 rounds? What's the conclusion? But we should see that actually Srila Prabhupada was speaking to us, whereas Mahaprabhu at the time was not necessarily speaking to us. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada came so that he could give us the essence. The essence of chanting is to develop a pure service attitude towards Krishna. Towards Krishna's devotees, towards Krishna's paraphernalia, Krishna's energy. Krishna means all those different things. So to develop a pure service attitude for Krishna himself and his things, his friends, his servants, like that. So that's the essence of chanting Hare Krishna. And that's the essence of engaging in devotional service, washing the dishes, sweeping the floor, distributing Prabhupada's books. The essence of it is the pure devotional attitude which pleases Krishna, to please Krishna. We're performing these activities for Krishna's pleasure. You know. But following the rules and regulations is important. Because on the strength of the rules and regulations, actually we can cultivate those habits which are pleasing to Krishna. And then eventually it will just be we'll be purified to the point where that is our spontaneous behavior, our spontaneous activities. We're acting on that platform very naturally and doing those things for Krishna's pleasure very naturally. Well, by the order of the spiritual master, we've been given rules and regulations according to time, place, and circumstance, which are fit for us. And if we follow those rules and regulations with faith and determination, then we will achieve that perfection, that knowledge, that pure knowledge. Who is Krishna? What am I doing here? What is the purpose of my activities? What is sacrifice? What am I meant to be doing? Knowledge. And at the time of initiation, actually the spiritual master clears that up very nicely. What is the point of the human form of life? To serve Krishna, to engage in this bhakti yoga. What are the most powerful limbs of bhakti yoga? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So we hear that at the time of initiation. Just chant Hare Krishna. Avoid activities which are detrimental to our performance of the sacrifice, so that we can engage in the sacrifice with determination and faith and attain perfection. So we're performing this kirtan, this chanting of the Lord's holy names as our primary activity, as our supreme occupation. This chanting process is our supreme eternal occupation. We all have many jobs in the world according to our natures, our conditionings. We've taken certain roles, misidentified our awareness, our consciousness has been placed on the material energy of the Lord, on this body which is made out of the matter, 8 elements, 5 gross, 3 subtle elements which make up the subtle body. So our attention, our pure consciousness which is coming from our pure self, the soul, is being has fallen down from its pure platform of being a servant of Krishna, turned towards Krishna in loving devotional service. So our pure consciousness is turned away from Krishna, and it's fallen down. Our consciousness has fallen down into this material world. And now it's being, we're absorbed in material activities on the body, on the mind. And so we've taken on various roles that have changed over the course of many lifetimes. That's the nature of the material world. Dukalayam ashashvatam. Ashashvatam is temporary. Krishna says, Ajo nityam shashvato, that the soul is eternal. It's not temporary. But the nature of the material world is ashashvatam, it's temporary. And it's full of suffering. Dukkha. Krishna says, Shitoshna sukha dukkha. One must tolerate the suffering of the material world. But we can't do that if we're actually identifying with the material world. We can't tolerate it. It becomes intolerable. And so we're constantly trying to take shelter of one material thing in another material thing. And that is exemplified in our taking one body after another in this material world, one body after another. Animal body, human body, plant body, all kinds of different bodies. Demigod body, Brahma Bhuvana Loka, from the topmost being in the material universe, Brahma, to the bottom. It's all suffering. But for the sake of trying to enjoy and be peaceful and to tolerate this world, we've taken shelter in one material form after another. So this is our position in the material world. But the nice thing is when we encounter the mercy of the pure devotee, he actually lets us know, hey man, this is where you're at, and if you engage in this kirtan process, in the Shravana process, in the Vishnu Smaran process, actually that is the shortcut to liberating your consciousness from this material engagement and becoming fully aware of your blissful nature, your eternal nature, your nature as Krishna's servant. Very simply, if you just chant this Hare Krishna with attention, with determination and faith, following the regulative principles, then easily you can come to the spiritual platform. You can become liberated from this material bondage. But the attention has to be there. There's rules and regulations always. There's 10 offenses to chanting the holy name. And one of our acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, has very nicely given us a workaround, so to speak. He's made it very easy for us, a cheat code. He said, yes, there are 10 offenses, but actually, if you just chant with attention, then you can avoid all of those offenses. You won't make those offenses. If you're absorbed in chanting the holy name, you won't actually make those offenses. But if you chant with inattention, then all offenses will be there. So the nice workaround is we chant with attention, with determination, with power, with strength, with eagerness, with crying out to the Lord for His mercy. And we position ourselves nicely so that we can actually receive that mercy. There's certain things that we do, the 4 regulated principles. But on top of that, we make sure that we're chanting nicely, chanting with power. If we're chanting very weakly, and we're trying to, if we're chanting with 50% attention, and we try to actually place the rest of our attention on that weak chanting, it actually won't work. There's no way. So you have to be chanting with, because you'll Krishnanu Prabhu, he said, how do we know if we're chanting weakly or strongly? Well, if we're chanting very weakly, then we'll be disturbed, and we'll be disturbed by our mind and our thoughts. So if we're noticing, thank you, Prabhuji. If we're noticing that the mind and the thoughts are captivating our consciousness and we're disturbed, our mind is going, making plans, and we're actually being absorbed in those plans. And what am I going to eat? What am I going to go to the movies? Or what am I going to do this? What am I going to hang out with that person? Or should I call this person? Or should I do this? Or if we're on the bodily platform, and the body, the stomach's hurting, or my leg is restless, and I'm moving, and I'm just thinking about this, But also, there's some energy being allocated towards chanting. So while these things are happening, I'm also trying to chant. So you have your intelligence is divvied up now. You're aware, your consciousness is divvied up. So you're thinking about how you should, what you should eat and do this, and then you're also trying to chant. But then, while this is happening, there's some intelligence. Okay, I'm trying to bring myself back to this chanting. So I'm chanting, and my mind is dragging my awareness away from the chanting, So what to do? What to do? Well, it takes discipline to actually realize that, okay, you know what, I'm not really chanting with all of my energy, all of my attention. My attention is being divvied up, my energy is being divvied up into certain places, so I'm chanting inattentively, offensively, and it's very difficult. But if we can practice using the intelligence to actually bring our awareness to the mantra and chant, we're chanting with attention. We're chanting with the full attention. Full attention. So it means the mantra is coming out from my mouth, my tongue. I'm using my tongue to speak, to chant, to vibrate the mantra. And then I'm soaking up all of it with my ears. And I'm making sure that all the syllables, I'm hitting all the syllables of the Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Hitting all the syllables very nicely, and I'm absorbing every syllable fully. And you'll know that you're chanting with attention when your mind and your senses become inert, when you forget about them. When you've forgotten about the body and the mind while you're chanting, you know that you're chanting with attention properly. So it's nice. It's a very tangible thing. Of course, this whole process is the mercy. We're dependent on the mercy. But Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. So we're dependent on Krishna's mercy, and His holy name is the mercy. He's given us the mercy that we're able to chant. But at the same time, He gives us intelligence. That's also His mercy. He gives us intelligence so that we can chant properly and satisfy Him with our sacrifice. And we can become liberated from our mind and our senses and our body and all these different things. And we can become satisfied by that chanting when Krishna is satisfied. And when we develop a taste for chanting, then we're situated on the spiritual platform. And it's wonderful because we're free from all of these lesser modes of nature, the lower modes of nature, these activities, birth, death, disease, old age. We're free. So Prabhupada says one has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. Okay. Let's see, text 15. Prabhu, do you have any comments or? You like talking about chanting the holy names? Oh, thanks, Prabhu. Yeah, I don't remember what verse it was, but Srila Rupa Goswami, who's the commander-in-chief of our Sampradaya, our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, he's got a lot of nice verses about chanting the holy name. And he kind of lets us into his mind, what's going on with his consciousness when he's chanting, So while I'm chanting, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I need water. I need to, maybe I should, do some exercises or whatever. Maybe I should do this, do that. But Srila Rupa Goswami is thinking, the only thing he's thinking about is, I need another tongue to chant the holy name. I need another ear to listen. So he just has the desire for more chanting, to relish the holy name. That's his only desire while he's chanting. He's not thinking about, I need to do this, need to do that. He says somewhere that the senses, when he's chanting the holy name, the senses are asleep. The senses become inert. So this is really nice. Yes, Prabhu. Sure, Prabhu. You can just say it whatever you like. Yeah.
So I was thinking, right? There's people who practice Buddhism, and they do a lot of meditation, and different kinds, but mostly meditating on the breath from what I gather. In and out, and just being conscious in the present moment. And it seems like these people, through this meditation, they become very peaceful and sattvic. Whereas I see devotees and myself, mostly myself, I sit and I try to chant, and we're hearing that the holy name has so much nectar, that God, Krishna is in his name itself. So we're just sitting and hearing the holy name, but it's like these people who are sitting and just focusing on their breath are seemingly becoming more peaceful than me, who's chanting the Lord's infinite potential holy name. But then I'm thinking about all these things that you talked about. Oh, I'm tired, I need some exercise, I need sleep, I need water, what am I going to cook today? So how can we reconcile this?
That's a nice question. Yeah, well, my first thing that comes to my mind is that I've seen a lot of people who are able to do it for 15 minutes, this breathing, and then they give it up, even the Buddhists. And a lot of Buddhists actually, they resort to chanting mantras or using prayer wheels or things like that, different rituals as meditative practices. So how long can we go on breathing? But we do know that the breath is a purifying element. It's a pure, when you're focusing on one of the, especially if one is practicing sattvic lifestyle, for instance, they're not just breathing, but they're also practicing hard rules and regulations as well. Most of them, most of them, I guess the Buddhists there's so many different varieties of Buddhism. The ones who might be following a traditional path, or orthodox maybe Buddhism, they generally adhere to sattvic lifestyle, so they rise early, they go to bed early, they take simple sattvic foods, and they engage in meditative practices and different things like that, studying their Shastra, what the Buddha has written and spoken. They study the words of Buddha. So they engage their time like that, and they're able to do nice breathing. And when the consciousness is absorbed in the pure breath, it is a purified state, because that air has been purified through these practices, and one will experience peace. But how long can you go on even doing that? Not very long. Not very long. But somebody who's actually chanting purely, he can go on chanting forever. And the ecstasy increases. There comes a point in which one is breathing, and because the breath is a material thing, it reaches its limit for bliss. It caps off somewhere. Plus, it's also a very mechanical process. There's no mercy involved. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Right. Yeah, Krishna said, very nicely said, that you can't stop the mind's activity. You can try to create a vacuum in the mind, but as soon as you stop, then things rush in and activity happens again. But devotional service is a positive activity. It's a positive engagement, which totally purifies the mind and one's consciousness. So it's not such a, breathing is a very hard thing. Focusing on the breath for that long is very hard. It's very tiresome. One goes tired, so then he has to go and focus, try to meditate in a different way, But ultimately, how long can you do that before you fall back down into, those lower activities? But with devotional service is so blissful and it's natural. And so when we're engaging in devotional service, we're not feeling that it's really unnatural or that it's very, very difficult. Of course, certain stages, purification is there, for sure. Hard purification is there, and we're feeling there are certain parts of me that I'm attached to that are dying off. There are certain things that I have to do that are hard for me to do right now, but as we keep making progress, it becomes more blissful and more natural, and it doesn't end. The bliss doesn't end. So it's a positive way to bring our consciousness to the topmost place. It's a very positive and simple way. But doing these kinds of, official meditations, like Srila Prabhupada said, don't become an official meditator, which means one just drinks coffee and tries to meditate fully, bring his full awareness to that coffee. Okay, Buddhists are doing this. They're smoking a cigarette and they're trying to bring their full attention to that cigarette, right? So they try to become one-pointed with it, whatever activity that they're doing, but it's not really, your meditation is dependent on this thing, this material thing, so it's totally bogus actually. What we're saying is, okay, take that same principle, but apply it to the holy name, see what happens. Just see what happens, And if they say, no, I'd rather smoke my cigarette and do it, then he's bogus, he's attached to sense gratification. But if he says, okay, let me try it, chanting the holy name. I'll try my meditation on the holy name. And then he'll become a Hare Krishna and he'll give up those other activities. And he'll just chant Hare Krishna, and develop a relationship with the holy name, who's a person as well. So, it's nice. We didn't have to do so, when we're doing these official, quote-unquote official meditations, becoming a professional meditator, or, it's kind of like a funny thing. It's like he's a professional meditator, he's sitting there staring at a light, a blinking light or something, and he's trying to absorb his consciousness in that. We're depending on, our strength. First of all, we're depending on so many fallible things that what happens when that light goes out, or my cigarette goes out and I have no more, or my coffee goes out, what happens then? Or what happens when I'm on my deathbed and I've only learned how to meditate when I'm doing sense gratification, which is very easy actually. You've seen it's the conditioned nature of the living entity. When I used to play video games, sometimes I was losing all sense of my body, stopped forgetting to eat, but totally absorbed in this mundane material activity, polluting my consciousness, and then getting angry or getting frustrated, game crashes or something, and then where's my meditation? Meditation is gone, It's never there to begin with. It's just bogus, But if we're chanting Hare Krishna, then we're tapping into unlimited nectar, unlimited bliss, and we're cultivating a relationship with God. And on the strength of that relationship, He's actually He's helping us. How much can we do for ourselves if we're conditioned? If I'm attached to these activities which are actually conditioning me. It's like so counterintuitive to say, yeah, like when I'm doing this horrible activity, I'm like free from suffering. It's like a mental concoction thing, because actually no. That very temporary activity which is actually conditioning you to suffering, once it ends, the full manifestation of that activity will become aware to you, and how you're actually wasting your time and making your situation in this world worse. So we have to give up sense gratification, and we have to chant Hare Krishna, and we have to meditate on the holy name with determination and faith, and perform the sacrifice with love, and try to please Krishna in this way. Anyways, that's why the Buddhists, they can meditate on these activities and even bring their awareness to their pure intelligence, and then they realize that this world actually is, they cut through the material illusion with their intelligence to a degree, not in its entirety, So yeah, it's focusing on the breath and then bringing the attention to the mind, witnessing the thoughts, and then bringing the attention further still to the intelligence. But then, of course, not being able to go beyond that because they don't have access to the transcendental knowledge, right? I mean, the only reason why we have any clue as to something being higher than the body and the mind and the intelligence is because we've been given that transcendental knowledge from the transcendental source. So we accept that with faith and we perform the experience and we can see that actually I can bring, that my awareness can go back further than my mind and my thoughts. Actually, I can take it to the self, to the Atman. But not even that, with Krishna consciousness, you can take it even further back to the self of the self, the Paramama, Krishna. And even further to Bhagavan, Krishna himself and his full spiritual perfection. So we're saying the awareness, bringing the awareness back, bringing the consciousness from this lowest place all the way to the highest place, Krishna, beyond even the pure self which is conceived of by the yogis and the Brahmavadis. So this is what we got going on. It's beyond the mind, it's beyond the nirvana which is conceived of by the Buddhists who have gotten only that far, or only able to get that far, you know. So it's nice that somebody can realize those things. That yeah, okay, you've applied yourself to this process and you've gotten that far, but take it further. Take it further. Bring the consciousness back to the soul platform, spiritual platform. But the nice thing actually is that we can work our way up to that, which is the process of Gyan. That takes a long time. That's a mechanical process as well. We can work up to that like that, the ascending process, or we can just focus or chant attentively Krishna's names, because Krishna's name is Him. We'll automatically go to the highest platform, and we'll bypass all of those things, you know. So that's the wonderful thing that we've been given. We've been given that. It's so nice. So nice, you know. So nice. Chanting is so nice. So this is the process, to chant with attention. Chant attentively, chant with strength, power. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Strong devotional service. Strong, attentive chanting and hearing and remembering. And worship. Krishna says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Those are the instructions of Krishna, to think about Him. And we can think about Him by chanting easily. And by chanting, we'll cultivate the pure devotional attitude, loving attitude, and very easily we can worship Him. We can offer Him obeisances. We can become His devotee. And we can become liberated from the material world and attain that highest position at His lotus feet. Bringing our consciousness back to His lotus feet. There's nothing better to meditate on than Krishna's lotus feet. And having a guru is very nice too, because he's the representative of Krishna. And so, if we can't think of Krishna, then we can think of his representative. We can meditate on the lotus feet of his servant. And that's just as good. So anyways, it's about time. So we can end it there. Unless, Prabhu, do you have anything? Comments? Yeah. Prabhu said, you're telling me that I can meditate on someone's feet and it's just as good as meditating on God? A person. Yeah, human being. Meditating on a human being's feet is just as good as meditating on God. This is the fact. Because it's not just any ordinary person. Not any ordinary person. The transparent via medium, God's representative, God's ambassador. Just like in the material sense, there are so many analogies that one can make to understand this point, like the power of attorney. Sometimes the judge will give the power of attorney over to somebody who's been working on a legal case. Right? So the judge has to handle so many legal cases, he doesn't really get so deep into all of the inner workings, but there's a representative there who does, somebody's job who does. He says, okay, you know this case in and out, so I give you the power of the attorney. Just like that. So the Lord's representative comes into this world. You know, he's in order to accept worship on behalf of the Lord and to give instruction as a service to the Lord. The Guru is God the worshipper, and Krishna, Bhagavan, is God the enjoyer, the worshipful God, the one who's worshipped. So Guru Tattva is actually one of the more difficult things to understand, but he's God's representative. God has given him the power of attorney to deliver the fallen souls, preach the pure message of the Bhagavad Gita. So he has the potency to actually liberate the conditioned souls from this world. Therefore, he's also worshipful, just like God is. Because God has given him the power of attorney to do this job, to act on behalf of God. So because he's able to actually deliver God's message and free the conditioned living entities, therefore he's also very worshipful as well. Now if somebody doesn't have that potency, then yeah, what's the benefit of worshiping them? No benefit. But the spiritual master is not an ordinary person. Okay. Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.